If only I had been there with my hip flask at Senator Mark Warner's political retreat last Friday at his Martha's Vineyard home when he said if given another drink he'd share stuff only he and Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III know. If you think you've seen wild stuff so far, buckle up, the Virginia Democrat and Vice Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee hinted. It's going to be a wild couple of months. Wilder than the Russians futzing with our elections? Wilder than indictments galore? Wilder than dozens of suspicious and secret contacts between the Trump camp and shadowy Russians? Wilder than millions of dollars laundered? Wilder than Mueller flipping 3 Trump campaign aides, one of them the former national security advisor? Wilder than capturing the paper trail between President Donald Trump and his personal lawyer that may lead to criminal charges against the president? I'd gladly send Warner a case of hip flasks filled with single malt for an escorted walk on the wild side. Warner's tease performance, his staff called it obviously a joke, invites us to imagine that Mueller might be holding in reserve a smoking gun that shows coordination between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin to shift the election. But no matter how you sift and cull the news clips, it's hard to imagine how to get there from here. So maybe we should open those flasks and share them until Mueller uncorks his spirits. Former Trump campaign director Paul Manafort, now serving time in Virginia's Northern Neck Regional Jail for violating parole, remains the primary focus of Mueller's prosecution even though he's not the ultimate target, something federal Judge T.S. Ellis carped about this week when Manafort argued that the case against him should be dismissed because Mueller had exceeded his authority. Ellis agreed that Mueller's high-pressure prosecutorial tactics seem designed not to bring Manafort to justice but to force him to provide evidence on Trump, and yes, Ellis agreed, that's distasteful, but yes, he also found that Mueller is still acting within his legal authority and the case should proceed. At the very least, I hope the Mueller investigation sorts out Manafort's finances. Last fall, NBC News informed us that Manafort had a $60 million relationship with now-sanctioned Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska and friend to Vladimir Putin, including a $26 million loan between a Manafort's shell and the oligarch. This week, press reports from newly unsealed filings showed a $10 million loan from Deripaska to one of Manafort's shells unmentioned in the NBC News story, John Hanna LLC. Manafort used John Hanna to purchase condos in Trump Tower, according to stories published in 2017. Money can make a man do weird things, but debt can make him do weirder things still. What does it mean that Deripaska held the pink slip on Manafort's life, and when will Warner give us a guided tour of that financial entanglement? The Washington Post explored the money trail that leads from Russia to the Brexit campaign to the Trump for President effort that the British papers and parliamentary investigators have been crisscrossing for a couple of weeks now. Aaron Banks, a British insurance executive who was the largest donor to the Brexit effort, became extraordinarily cozy with Russian diplomats and businessmen in his country, and then pressed to meet with Trump and associates and hang with them during the campaign. Mueller wants a piece of this story, as do congressional Democrats investigating the issue, the Post reports. Mueller has asked witnesses about what role the Brexiters, including former UKIP leader Nigel Farage, may have played in the relationship between Trump's people and the Russians. Did Banks and his associates serve as a conduit of information to and from the Russians on behalf of the Trump campaign, asked Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat, California, in the piece. As Swamp Diary went to press, The New York Times broke news that explains Banks' Russophilia contacts in London's Russian embassy dangled investments opportunities in Russian-owned gold or diamond mines at him. One of Mr. Banks's business partners, and a fellow backer of Britain's exit from the European Union, or Brexit, took the Russians up on at least one of the deals, the Times reports. Could these self-described bad boys of Brexit be the tropic driving Warner to ask for additional libations? Deputy Attorney General Rod J. Rosenstein traveled to Capitol Hill this week to absorb a beating from Trump congressional allies. On a congressional sidestitch, FBI agent Peter Wheelstop Trumpstruck sat through his own 11-hour behind-closed-doors interrogation from the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. Rosenstein and FBI Director